All right, welcome back. We are Game 3004 in the winter 2021 semester at George Brown. I'm just going to stop my video here and put myself up here for a second. And it is week 11, right? Not week 10. Aren't we week 11 today? I'll be okay. Week 11, part one of our broadcast. And today what we're going to be talking about is a couple things, but we're sitting at week 11 here. We have a lab, and this week your alpha release is due on Sunday. So that's something we're going to talk about. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about how to create a weather system and with particles and that kind of thing. And then the week after is your beta release, and there is a special activity planned for your beta release, just as a something that we're going to be talking about today. So that's related to your beta. All right, so I want to talk about that with you. And then in week 14, between your beta and your final release, there is a post-mortem / retrospective, and that's going to be what your lab is going to be about. There is no new stuff after week 13 in terms of Unity content. All right, so that is what we're doing on week 14. So just a bit of a look ahead in terms of where we're at. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense for you. All right. So last week what we did was we talked about loading and saving game state with scriptable objects, and what we also did last week, we recognized that we need to use player preferences, to for persistence, right? Between loads, right? And what happens sometimes, we get into a thing where your app will shut down, or you come back, to run your app again after a long break, and it's been, let's say you've turned off your phone and come back, and we really want to maintain our data that is coming from your app. So that's what this we use player preferences for that. There's other options that we could use. We talked about, and some of them are using a database like Firebase as an option. Especially with Unity and Android and iOS devices, they work well with something called Firebase, which is hosted by Google. I recommend that, actually. What are we doing this week? We're talking about the beta release details, and a couple of things to know from a project components perspective. Your 8th weekly report is due Friday, right? So that's coming up. And your alpha release is due Sunday, along with, and I forgot to put this in, your peer review. So this is like peer review 4, if I'm not wrong. Peer review 4, also due Sunday.
Sorry, sir. Can I just come on the mic for 1 second?
Absolutely.
The week 8 report, according to Blackboard here, it's actually due today and not Friday.
Thank you for that. I will update that. That is
No problem, sir.
week 11. Thank you for that. Yeah, that should be due. That should be definitely due Friday. We'll just update that. It's not a big deal. I want everyone to have a chance to get that done. And we'll make it closed on Friday as well, or on Saturday. Here we go. Friday. All right, so that is the weekly report. So that's the 8th one. Again, it's due Friday. So make sure you get that done. It's for the end of the week, just to make sure that you have a chance to talk about what you did between releases. Your alpha release is due Sunday. Remember, the only thing that's going to be really the focus of your alpha release is mostly to convert to mobile and to make that quest system for your tutorial. Your tutorial system should be available for you to make use of on the weekend. All right, so Sunday. So how to basically, and it can be very simple, guys. I don't need a lot of steps on how to, but I mean, obviously, the more complex you make it, the more complete you make it, the better it's going to be. One thing we can do is we can iterate that, because there might be some things that are missing or some adjustments to be made on the beta release, which we'll talk about in a sec. And then, of course, your peer review 4. Most people are doing well in their peer reviews. People like each other, which is a good thing. But I've been getting some comments like, hey, you know what? People aren't showing up, or, I'm trying to reach out to people. By the way, it's not just you, Alex, but others. I've been trying to reach out to people, and I can't get access. Because people aren't responding, or they're not available, or they're not doing what they're supposed to do. That's okay, guys. Just put in your peer review, because at the end, I'm going to adjust everything based on your feedback, right? So that's what I talked about at the beginning of semester, and that's how I'm going to play it by the end. So this is what's going to happen. Most people are doing very well, though. Everyone likes each other for the most part. I mean, like 95% of people in the course, right? So this is pretty good. At least according to the peer review. What you really feel about each other, that could be two different things. But that's, something that you've said to me. So that's what we're really doing this week. What I want to do before we talk about what's going to be happening on lab, and a little bit about what's happening on lab, is I want to talk about the beta release and what's happening for the beta release. So I've released this document. It's actually up on Blackboard, and it's embedded inside of, if you look at assignments, you're going to see that in the beta release area, there's a PDF now. I've got two more to do for you. One of them is the final release document and the final presentation. And these are pretty self-explanatory, but I'm going to also produce a little document for these as well, which is going to be based off the other documents I've already created. All right, and again, you can see the dates that are inside your assignments. I've kind of released all the dates for you, but these two details have to be yet to be released because I'm still working on them. All right, so again, your beta release is due week 13, so that's 2 weeks from now, on Sunday, April the 11th at midnight. However, week 13 is also designated as testing week. And so what's happening is on week 13, during our lab period, I want each of you to have access to your beta release. I'm not going to give you a starter for that week. What I want you guys to do is have a copy of your beta release available. Friday is 26. Thanks, Russ. In order for you to do your testing. And what I'm looking to do for that week is memory profiling, CPU, testing, that kind of stuff to see what it's like. And I want you guys to take the results of those things, and I want you to place them inside of your GDD, your game design document, which is going to be due on Sunday. So some of the things that you're going to be working with me on lab is directly related to the marks that you're going to get on your beta release for the Sunday. So what this means is that that's what this beta release is all around. But one thing that there's an expectation that 100% of your graphics and sound assets are ready to, for your beta release. There's no more graphics or sound assets that you're going to get after your beta. You're done. All right. So that's the idea behind it. So again, after this week with your alpha, you have 2 short weeks to get everything together that you need for your final, your final version, your beta version. And remember that the focus of the beta version is really a test. It's a testing version. So I need a stable and fully functional version of your game in order for us to have something to work with on lab. So that is the purpose. Even though each individual person is going to be testing, you can take those test results. So think about this. If there's 6 people on your team and you're doing the lab with me, whether you're doing it as a bonus and you hand in the results, I'll give you the lab details during that week, right? Or not, you can take all of those results and produce an average. So I'm gonna get you to actually produce some information, and you're gonna include that testing in your GDD. Again, your GDD is a living document you're using not just for design, but also for testing, for everything else that you've got going on. Okay. So it's going to detail things like, how is your memory working? What can we do to improve memory? And we talked about this last semester for those people who are with me. We talked about how we can use things like object pooling, the factory method pattern, and a bunch of other patterns that we talked about last semester from a programming perspective to improve performance this semester. Okay, that's what we're using. So the same kind of techniques that we used are something that I encourage you to use this semester. I'm not making you use them. I'm not saying you must have your factory method pattern or your object pool. It's expected that you might think about these things as from an improvement perspective. Okay, and the beta test is being done on mobile. All right, but you're going to do your profiling in the editor, and the reason for this is it's quite challenging to do it on mobile. And why? Because when it comes to memory profiling and all that kind of stuff, it's kind of an advanced thing, and we're not together. You really need to do it on a mobile device, not on an emulator. And most of you, or half of you, may not even have the appropriate mobile device to test on. So it's not fair for me to give you that as something that I'm going to to produce marks on. Okay, so that's something that we have to be reasonable. Again, I'm trying to be reasonable as much as possible in this, and in these times, and so that only in the editor is okay. Okay, so I mean, it also gives you information. Like if it's really bad in the editor, it's gonna be terrible on the device. So it is an indicator anyway, right? But that's what it's gonna be. So please be prepared. Week 13, I'll remind you next week. Week 13 is a testing week. Even though your beta release is due on Sunday, you need to have it ready to run on Thursday. Okay, so your final version, the final version of the beta, is due on Sunday. But I want each of you to have your, kind of a download that we can go to during the week. The project, not the build. I don't expect, again, build at the end of the day. So Russ's question was the project or the build. The answer is it's the project. So I want you to have the project available so you can test in the editor. Build, no, don't worry about the build. Okay, so that is the purpose of the beta, right? So it's worth 10% of your final grade. And again, one of the things that we're looking at from a marks perspective is this time the weighting is going to be slightly different. No more web builds. This is all mobile builds from now on. All right, so because really this is you're getting onto the final version of your mobile app, right? So the first part, again, Michael, was all prototyping with WebGL, and now we're moving in towards finalization with your mobile. In reality, what we probably would do is make a desktop app first, right? That's reasonable, that runs well, that has good playability. And if we had more time, right? And in other words, if I didn't have restrictions of doing this all in one semester, then we would have more time to do testing with WebGL or even on desktop for a while, right? And until all your gameplay elements were there, everything was working properly and all that stuff, and then convert to mobile. Here we have a kind of a compressed schedule because we're in a semester and we're trying to do a project in a semester, which is very challenging, right? So I'm really happy that you've taken it as far as you have, for what you guys have done. And again, you've kind of, to me, most of you have met expectations when it comes to the things that you produced for this semester. So really, really good, for the most part. So then again, so common requirements, all common requirements must be fully functional at this point. And the same thing goes for game type specific requirements. So 2 short weeks from now, after this release, all your functionality has to be there. All right. And all your game assets and sound assets and everything else should be in place. However, there's no expectation that you're going to be bug free. I don't expect you to have no bugs or something not working or a piece of functionality fully, like something not exactly, it might be buggy. Again, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be bug free. We're going to hammer out some of the bugs between your beta release and your final release. And that's what the testing is for. It's not just for memory profiling and CPU profiling, but actually to look through and catch some of those errors so that your final release, which is a code freeze after that, there's no more coding, none of that happening in your final release, right? That final release is the one that you're going to use to demonstrate your project in your final presentation, which is your final project piece. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. So your 6th draft is really basically any kind of dynamics that have changed because as a result of changing or creating this release. Dynamics, aesthetics, anything you put in there, I want you to update your game mechanics and dynamics. You might have aesthetics as well that you change. Chances are you may. So anything like that you want to document, as well as any additional screenshots and that kind of stuff you want to add into your document. Your document at this point should be much more robust than when you first started. And then there's going to be a new section I want you to create in your document. So that's why you're getting more points for your game design document. So game designers out there, the expectation is for you to work on your document because when you do, you're going to have a testing section. What I'm looking for is relevant information and screenshots around memory usage. So you're going to do memory profiling. You can take kind of before and after shots from Unity, which is where we're going to get the memory profiling. And then CPU usage, same thing. So we're going to separate those two things out. And these tests are to be performed in the editor only, like I said, but not on the device. You may want to include, I haven't included it here, but you may want to include things like charts or a graph or anything like that to show kind of before and after scenarios and other mitigation details. For example, I have really bad memory usage. It's really, really high, and it may not work properly on a real device. What do I do? What have I done? Well, I've added object pooling, as an example, and it's really helped. Or object pooling didn't help at all. Maybe I need to reduce the size of my assets. So, those kind of things. And we'll talk about how to optimize assets as well, reducing the texture sizes, compressing stuff, all those other things that we can do. We're going to think about doing during this release. Okay, so that's what's going to happen for this release. It's not a terribly difficult one in terms of additional components. There's no additional components here, right? The only thing you're going to do is make sure that everything that I've asked you to do from your project, and that means when you look at the project document itself, that means your final project overview, which is the original document that I gave you in the beginning of our semester, this thing, that when you look through the common requirements, right, that's what I'm looking for. So all the common requirements, all these common requirements for all your games are met, everything, right? All your game type specific requirements are met. Check them off, producers, whoever you are. Make sure that they are all met, right? If they're not, and if there's something that's missing, that's where you'll lose your marks. Because I'm going to go through and go, okay, did they get this? Did they have this? Did they have this? What are they missing? Please be very specific when you deliver your when you upload your project on Blackboard. Give me comments if there's something that's missing. Give me comments if you want me to look at a specific area. It's going to help me, and it's going to help you. All right, so that's the thing, and that's what these two things are. So basic requirements and game type requirements are met, but really this is a stable release we can use for testing. Okay, so that is what the beta release is all about. Any questions, comments from producers or anybody on the floor? I think it's fairly straightforward, guys. I don't think it's outside of what you're looking at, and I'm giving you a chance to iterate and using the testing week as a chance to improve things. All right, so that's the idea behind this thing. So hopefully it's going to be pretty good. And learning about performance profiling in general is a really great skill to have in the industry when you do testing and performance profiling. How does it work? We're not actually talking about user testing. That's a whole other issue. And we're not going to have time to do user testing this semester. We won't. Okay, there's just not going to be time for that. But in reality, you'd want to do user testing as well. So one thing is, how does it perform? The other one is, do I like it? Is it fun? Do I need to add a feature? Do I need to remove something? Those things are another section that we don't have time to do this semester, but you should have a good idea of what you need to do to make it fun. And each of the builds that you're doing, you should test the game out and see, is it playable? Like, these are things that you probably want to ask yourself. Is the game playable? Is the game fun to play? Is there something missing from the game that would help or improve the game? Should I remove something from the game that is just not working and that doesn't work for the game itself, or is kind of working against the idea of the game? So these are things that you got to consider. Your release demo video is really the same as always. Again, I just look for a little 5 minutes. Here's what we're doing. Any kind of code you've adjusted, make sure you deploy on your device, because one of the requirements for this one is deploying on the device emulator or mobile device if you can. There is no live to site. Same thing for the alpha. The alpha details tell you that I'm not looking for a WebGL deployment. It's only a device emulator or mobile device deployment for the alpha and the beta. Okay, that's what's happening there. Project management tracking as normal. Some people aren't really, if you're giving me a project and I can't access it, guys, then don't give me the project. Give me screenshots. Like some people are giving me Jira, and I go to the Jira site and I don't have access. And I've given you comments in the past that say things like, I don't have access to this stuff. Please make sure I have access to it. And in order for you to give me access, you need to add me in, right? You can use my last name at hotmail.com as my general inbox. You can use that, or you can use my email from George Brown. It's okay, any one of those, but you need to include me if I'm going to see those things. And if you made your version control, your GitHub project private, I need to have collaboration access on that too. So if you don't give me collaboration access, I can't see your version control, and you'll lose marks for that. So please let me know. Give me access so I can see it. Okay. Otherwise, from a release submission requirements perspective, a PDF of your game design document is required again, a working link to your GitHub repo, and a link to your demo video. Please don't give me a video. That would be bad. Some groups have given me that in the past. And screenshots of your current backlog is fine. Okay. Evaluation criteria has been updated, so it's out of 100%, 100 marks. Questions around this thing? All right, so that is your beta release. So again, going back to the subject of what we're doing. Again, please make sure, some people are still forgetting their peer reviews, and some people are even forgetting their weekly reviews. Combined, these things are worth marks every time you do them. They're not optional; they're required for this course. So make sure you get it done. If you don't get them done at the end, you'll lose marks. And it's just going to be, they're individual marks, not group marks. Okay, so that's something. Also notice that coming up on week 14, there is a project postmortem and retrospective. There is an activity that we're going to be doing during that lab, as there is no lab during that period, no learning lab, as in a Unity learning lab. So make sure that you're there. Again, that lab is optional if you don't do your postmortem, and you will have a postmortem and project retrospective that is going to be due for your final presentation. You're going to see that there's going to be a what could I do if I had more time slide again, as well as in your final release game design document. So again, just like we were doing with our beta release, the next release is going to have this project postmortem retrospective, which is going to be due during presentation time. Okay, so that's when everything is due. Your final release and your final presentations are all due on the last week of class. One thing to note is, even though your final release is due on the very last day of semester, your final presentations must be ready to go by the Thursday of class time. Okay, so it must be ready to go during that time. So please keep that in mind. Okay. And that's really it from a project update perspective. I want to also talk about what we're doing this week, but any questions around the project update, things that I'm looking for? Or anyone else want to add any feedback? I've read some peer reviews around the project, and some I would say feedback around the project process. I know for some of you, working with teams is a difficult thing, especially in the school environment. Okay, but again, keep in mind that it doesn't matter, school or no school. Even when people are getting paid, you don't know what they're going to produce, right? So the biggest problem of working with other people in general is some people will produce great work, whether they're in school or out of school. Some people won't produce great work no matter what you give them, all right? No matter, even if it's an interesting topic, they just won't produce great work. And that's just a fact of life. And we're going to have, or on some projects, they may not be as active as on others, right? So, do your best to try and stay through this. I think this is a good process for everybody. Some people are more advanced in this than others. Like, some people have already gone through this and they're more comfortable with it, and so on. And remember to keep your eye on the goal, which is you're producing an app potentially that you can use as something that you can show other people as a portfolio piece. Hey, look, I've got a mobile game that I made with Unity. I did it over a course of a semester. We went through all this process. It was an agile project managed kind of like product. And you know what? You might have something that is in a prototype stage, an early access product that you can put up on a store, or even convert it into a desktop app for the future, right? So something that's what I'm looking for you guys to create. And it'll be your first, or one of the first Unity apps that are probably this complete. Okay, that's the idea behind it. Okay, any other questions or comments before we move on to the lab part? I mean, by the lab
Yeah,
part, yeah,
I have something to say.
sure.
We like in my job, we also use agile methodology,
Awesome.
and each week, like on a Monday, we'll have a catch up with like bosses, who will kind of give us some feedback on how we're doing, which is very helpful. However, in this class, I haven't got grades yet for like the second and third playable, and we're coming up on the fifth now. And it would be really, really, I know you're busy, but it would be really nice to have grades because I don't know if like we've missed a bunch of stuff,
Okay.
you know? And it's really hard.
Do you want to meet with me? I know it's hard, but do you want to meet with me, like one-on-one, Kat? Do you have time for that? Because then what I can do is I can give you one-on-one feedback if you like.
It would just be great to just have grades.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm also.
It would help because I don't like it. If I now submit something and I fail on something, then I'm going to be like, well, I would have known
Yeah,
if I had grades for it.
I'm fully trusting that you're not going to fail on anything that I've asked you to do, right? So you're also in your third year. You know, so and I know most of you, I know you, and I know that you're probably gone through a checklist, if I'm not wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, of all the things that you need to get up for your project. Yes.
Yes.
So then, you know, there's got to be a little bit of trust from me to you, right, when it comes to what you're producing. And the stuff that I saw during your checkpoint was good, right? So it was good enough for me. So that means that chances are up until your checkpoint, the stuff that you produce is going to be okay as well. So the stuff that I'm doing right now with your alpha release, I'm going to try and get grades out to you, but try and be patient with me again because I'm developing. At the same time that you're doing some, I'm developing the course as well. Remember, this is a first run course, Kat, so be gentle with me. I'm not trying to not produce grades for you. It's because
trying to. Yeah. I know how busy you are, and I appreciate the work you put in.
I'm trying.
But I get like, obviously I'm a very high strung person.
No.
But I know that I'm not the only person who has this concern.
No, I know that, and I think
if we're having projects that build on themselves, we need to know before the next release how we did on the last release.
I agree 100%. 100%. There's nothing that I can say to counter that at all, and I do apologize for that. You know, again, just try and be patient with me as much as I can through this process. You know, we're going to get through it, and I think you're going to have a good experience at the end. I think. I don't want it to be the idea behind this one when we talked about last semester was it shouldn't be a high stress semester for you, not for my course, right? I'm just saying, right? That's the idea behind it. It wasn't supposed to be high stress, right? So that's why we decided to go with the group project so that you can you know, kind of allocate work, division of labor for some of the stuff that you're going to do. So you do the job that you want to do. So if you, Kat, want to be a producer, then you're going to be doing a production job. And if other people are going to be a gameplay programmer or an AI programmer or whatever, that was the purpose of this course, as well as, of course, producing, you know, creating a product. So yeah, I agree. I hear you, and I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you, and I'm sorry that I haven't been able to produce marks fast enough. I'm trying. Okay, that's all I can do.
If I can go to Albert and tell him that you need a TA, I'll do that.
I'm never going to get a TA. Don't do it. I'm never going to get a TA, Kat. It's not going to happen. We don't get TAs in college.
To take the stress off future students.
Yeah, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Thank you for that, though. I really appreciate your sentiment.
But all my experiences with you are a good experience.
Good.
But can I have some grades? That's all.
Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. Thank you. All right. Thank you for that feedback. Anyone else have anything else that they want to add to Kat? Okay. Thank you for that. Now, I wanted to move into the next part, which is what we're doing for the lab. I'm just going to talk about it, and then we'll do it in lab. All right. So what we're doing in lab is we're going to be talking about the organic character creation process as an overview, right? So at the end of the day, what we're looking at is what's going to happen. One thing I've noticed for some of you is the lab uptake in this course is very low. And what I mean by that is I don't think that it's very difficult to do some of the labs that I've asked you to do. I know that there's a lot of time involved in getting some of this stuff done. So some of you have elected not to do the bonus, you know, but I think it's a great opportunity to practice, especially if you're a gameplay programmer, AI programmer, you're working on user interface items, those kind of things, those things that I've covered, saving and loading, like all that, like the basic stuff that I've asked you to do. I'm trying to cover as much as I can in labs so that you don't have to think about how to do it on your own. You know, so that's what the labs are for, right? So I've noticed again, like I've looked at it, and there's very few people, maybe a handful that are doing the bonus, and that means that, and by the way, the handful that are doing it for the most part don't need the bonus, as always. And thank you for that comment, Michael. I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, that, you know, this is how it's going, and what I'm looking for, and I appreciate that too. But what I'm looking for is, thanks, Jake. What I'm looking for is if you can do the bonus, especially with some of this stuff, I think it's great because it gets you to kind of a deeper understanding of how of Unity works. Not that the videos are going to ever disappear. It's not about that. Remember, I can't go into so much detail that I would love to. If I had more time, with people like Kat and with other people in the course, throughout the entire time, if we had more time together, I think we can go quite deep into the details that we want to, kind of work out in Unity and in other parts of the project, right? So the labs are just an opportunity for us to get together and work on some of the technical issues. I know this is late in the course to say this, but I've just noticed like the uptake is very low. 5 people, maybe 6 people that are doing, and I know it's a time thing for some of you, maybe for most. Okay, so that's what we're doing this week, and that's all that I want to talk about this week. Again, these little meetings that we have together, during the semester with our 1-hour lecture, they're designed for as a project update more than anything else. Okay, so that's what we're using them for. Okay, so that's it for me. If you have no other comments or questions about your project, good luck. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause this. And the lab is going to start promptly at 3. Okay, that's it. I'll stop the video now. Thank you. All right, and that's it.